Chicago footwork as a vernacular dance of liberation.
I'll do a quick example. I was at home cleaning, sweeping, wiping the windows, taking out the trash. On my way to go drive to the party, cops pulled up with their guns, telling me freeze, but yet they wanted to put me in cuffs. I didn't do anything. All I wanted to do was footwork.
Thank you. In the interview version of that, he explained that once he gets to the party, right, then he can release that energy, right? He can tell that story in a footwork battle circle. Thus, if footwork allowed us to say, back up off me, and if socialization is, to a large extent, the mark of what it means to be human, I first want to examine how this was the case because it allowed for us to redefine the contours of our humanity through the creation of an embodied language of resistance. Young Black folks in the city have also been deemed subhuman and disfigured because they lack the capacity of language, and a particular kind at that, in North America, Standard White English. But should one's ability to articulate themselves through Standard White English be the ultimate sign of their humanity? I would venture to say no, especially since Chicago public school system has been largely to blame for cognitive disabling. Beginning in 2013, Mayor Rahm Emanuel closed 50 Chicago public schools, fertilizing the soil for gang and gun violence in Chicago. In other words, the alleged illiterate Black youth are rendered expendable objects because it's presumed that they lack cognitive capacity to contribute productively to a labor force. Footwork was liberating insofar as it served as an embodied communicative outlet. We've developed an alternative form of language to make ourselves intelligible to one another within institutions that attempt to strip us of our humanity. Mad Dog was a disfigured, quote unquote, young Black male body, and so outside of the realm of humanity.
Footwork through the trauma. Footwork through the trauma. But I can breathe just like my mama. Footwork through the trauma. Footwork through the trauma. But I can breathe just like my mama. My mother told me I'll always be shortened of breath. She said, baby, I'm sorry, but at times you cannot breathe. All because you was born in a polluted all-gill garden where waste management showed total disregard for Black life. Right across the street from our garden, our city burns this garbage and waste, and that pollution runs through our water pipes into our Kool-Aid jar. When you ride past 131st Street on the Bishop Ford, you can smell the stench of cancerous, asthmatic, Black death. Every person in my family shared this fate. Imagine being born into a family where nobody can breathe. In 1991, my mama lived with an in-law chart in one lung. And for 11 years, she had to be on 24-hour oxygen. until she passed away from COPD in 2018. I know and I recognize that I'm going to someday share that same fate. But until then, I'm going to footwork through the trauma. But I can't breathe, just like my mama. Footwork through the trauma. But I can't breathe, just like my mama.
The piece that he did last month was titled Shortness of Breath. This is the flyer. It begins with a choreographed footwork routine and then ends in a poem that examines the environmental injustice he experienced growing up in the gardens, given the many generations of family members who perished from cancer and mostly respiratory health issues, in particular COPD, congestive heart failure, and asthma. He talks about how Big Pharma made a killing on pharmaceuticals like prednisone and albuterol, on which he relied for 12 years, rather than the state intervening to purify the air he consumed. In this sense, his family members were disabled and then killed while he was debilitated for profit. But buying into this notion that Chicago footwork is the means to substantiate Black humanity will require of us to interrogate privileged, Eurocentric modes of knowing and speaking, consequently broadening the criteria used to determine who gets to be human and who doesn't. Poir puts forth a number of different correctives, but here's two that help us to rethink established white Western constructions of the human. First, she argues, we need to get rid of, quote, the primacy of verbal language as an absolute sign of communication, my emphasis, end quote. Second, she argues that we must reconsider where language is even located in the body. So not only do we have to begin to recognize the diversity of language across species and decenter verbal language, but we also have to concede the fact that language might be located in different parts of the body.
So Malcolm actually, we in the streets, you know what I'm saying, trying out Malcolm.
So this initiation was battling?
Yep, Malcolm, the way Malcolm got in the group was he had to battle us out on the block. And so we battling him, but then a random person just hop out the car. So I'm thinking it's somebody to support Malcolm, like with some moral support.
When I first met her, I'm living in Chicago now. I ain't living out here no more. I just slid through Harvey because my wife stay around the corner. I see them always dancing. And I hear tracks, and I see these cats footworking, and I know they're a group. I'm like, hey man, let me see what them tracks on.
This is when I found out. I was like, what the spins at? If you BB, then you should be able to spin at any time.
Oh, he did a spin? You got the spin?
I was like, where the spins at? And he just did it on command. I'm like, yep, this BB, this the dude. That's when I moved something out the way, like, nope. But look, I'm gonna come right at you. I'm gonna hit basic to let you know. Like I know my foundation. I know how to be on beat.
Yep.
I'm not like Sonic. I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of moves, but I got levels, bangs.
Yep.
Like I'm keeping it basic because I know that's what you respect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was right. But
now he's saying hello.
You're right.
Now he's saying hello.
Yeah, I said
you know what I'm saying? But the thing was, before you even footwork, you didn't speak to nobody. You didn't say hi, hey, what's up? You just walked up and just danced, and dancing is what introduced who you was. That was a real footwork conversation.
That was a union. That was a footwork union. That was between me and Havoc. Like at that point.